Welcome to the special edition of the Portal Release webinar dedicated to the Next Generation Route Planner. We are recording this on the 30th of March ahead of the release on the 31st tomorrow, and the purpose of this webinar is to take you through what will be changing in the Route Planner in this release and provide additional resources that you might need and any contact information for further assistance. Okay, so the panel members for today are Andrew Hughes, Spatial Lead, NHVR Solutions, Sean Tansley, Product Analyst at NHVR Solutions, and Benjamin True, the Product Owner for the National Spatial Program at NHVR. The format for today would be the slides and some demonstrations of the new features that are being released. And like I said, if you have any questions, we will provide contact information at the end of this webinar. So before I take you through the highlights and the new features, you can see that the Next Generation Route Planner is now a default option. But however, in case you want to go back to the legacy Route Planner, it is still available. And you can switch the Next Generation Route Planner off and go back to using the old planner if you choose to. I hope you don't. In terms of what's changing, the main change, I suppose, will be transitioning to the OpenStreetMaps as the base map, which will also enable better routing experience designed for heavy vehicles and more in line with the operator's expectations. There will be some significant usability enhancements as well as ability to download your routes now, not just have that information in PDF format anymore. And we will also demonstrate intelligent routing that we will be piloting with this release. So I now would like to hand over to Sean, please, to explain a little bit more what in terms of the heavy vehicle routing, what will be happening and what you can expect.
Thanks, Tanya. Thank you guys for having me here today. Let me just go through the next lovely slide for you guys. So improved heavy vehicle access, improved heavy vehicle routing. So part of the improvement program is that we're swapping to a new mapping system. So the transition to the new routing and the transition to the new routing engine will help deliver better routing options for heavy vehicles. So what this means is that we're actually going to utilize a system that has more capabilities for us in the future to start instilling some more dynamic logic around how heavy vehicles access utilizing current networks and pre-approvals and so on in the future. We're still in the process of rolling through this now, but Andrew will speak more about that later on. More accurate heavy vehicle network mapping in line with our operators' expectations. So we're able to, as close as to near real time, update the legally enforceable networks as the updates come through from certain road managers and jurisdictions. And the restricted and dynamic routing parameters, turn restrictions to avoid, prohibit, and considerations. So it's looking at the way that the engine itself then populates or calculates your route that you're looking for and takes into consideration some of those factors. But Andrew will definitely touch on more of that later on. I'll just quickly move to the next slide while I wait and get the system up and running. So usability enhancements. So we've had a couple of slight minor changes that actually benefits the user's experience while operating through the new generation route planner. It's come down to some clunky options and things that we had feedback from industry and other users such as road managers and the NHVR in relation to little clicks and features that we can use to, or just to slightly adjust to make it more friendly for you and offer a better ease of use. Some of these are to do with the touch experience for the sensitivity of the mouse and the quick search functionality, where when it would overlay the map layers, it caused a bit of an issue trying to navigate around. It in fact would move the mapping layer underneath rather than allowing you to navigate through that text field. So I will quickly just change back to my other screen where I've got a lovely little application ready to go for you guys now. So what you'll see here is that I've presented you with an application as it stands. It says it's for oversize over mass, which is at this stage fine. It's not a big deal because at the moment we're just trying to go through and highlight to you guys some of the user experiences that we've got. So on this occasion, I've used a class 1 vehicle, just a prime mover towing a low loader. I've inputted the various values that you would see on the majority of just a general oversized movement. And I've just populated the travel details of what I'll be looking to have the road managers accommodate me for. Just particular items and visible, whether it's laden or unladen, return trips and so on and so forth that you've used to. But the best part is we're going to get to the routing now. So as you can see, and I'm sure Andrew will touch on this later on, is that the maps compared to the previous maps, which you'll see here on this screen, the contrast and the brightness is a lot more washed down. So it's a lot easier to see and to view. The mapping system itself is a lot easier to navigate from the user experience because it's washed out a lot more, the detail, particularly when it comes to roads and road segments and when you're adding layers and things on. Is easily navigatable when you're moving left or right or up or down, north or south, east or west, however you want to call it. And it actually allows you to pick up on the main arterials and things like that a lot better. When you try and use the exact same function, you will notice that it's very, very bright. The names are very bold. You've got a lot of these lovely little additional icons and things like here, places of interest and so on. That's really not imperative to what you would be looking at. And you'll see that the data or the data set that it's using for this older looking year system is a little bit out of date, particularly when it comes to your satellite imagery and things like that. But I will not get too much in depth onto that one. What we're going to look at is specifically at the moment is just how the sensitivity has been toned down. So now I can physically go into the search function and I can type in Skyring Terrace. And it will take me straight to that navigation point. And it's not, as I'm clicking through these, it's not adjusting the map behind as it did previously before. Now, same token here, we've actually changed the drop down now to a toggle. So while you're navigating through your layers as well here, that you'll see that it's not adjusting the map. It's not as sensitive as it used to be before. And it physically allows you to then toggle off that map layer and same with these here. If you want to go full screen view, you can, or you can press escape to exit or click the button again. It's the same thing. It makes it a little bit more easier for you to navigate through the mapping system, particularly if you've got quite a large route or you're trying to get into that finite detail when going into your start and finish locations or bypasses and things like that. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to go through a really quick route just to show you how the system and its engine now works. I'm going to use a location in Victoria, Carrs Reef Gold Mine, as a collection point for this instance. And you'll see that while the map's still kind of washed out a little bit, you can still very easily see all the navigation through all the adjoining roads and so on and so forth. And then as I want to go through and add my layers by using the toggle function, I can then either go through to hybrid, which will overlay one of the most current mapping satellite images over the current road layer map. And then we can go to satellite as well. And so you'll see that these maps are a lot more up to date, particularly on hybrid and satellite view. And it gives a far more greater detail than it did before. So if you're looking for that bypass that wasn't existent before on the previous maps, you may find now that using these that there are a lot more infrastructure details than they previously was before. So just to moving on towards the end of our final route plan journey, I am going to just go to say that we're going to move a piece of machinery to the Port of Melbourne. So as you can see, it still has the intuitive functions in there where it will bring up your search avenues for your different addresses and so on and so forth. I'm just going to give you a quick demo of how well the system brings it up. So you can see right now that it's actually plotted the point on the mapping system itself. It's taking a lovely little dog leg there and then following the most direct route all the way down through into Melbourne. Now, previously before, you would have noticed that you would have had to use 2 or 3 different way sets to try and move your marker. The system and its routing engine's a lot more professional than it used to be before, and it now allows you to physically drop that point. But as you'll notice that I'm making, when I'm dropping those points, I'm also zooming in. So you can click and hold and roll that mouse wheel, really bring in tight to your desired location, and then the system will recalculate for me. Now, while the time may seem, you think, oh, you know, it's rather excessive or along those lines, it's actually very comparable to the previous system. If anything, it actually takes a little bit more finite time to go through and really look at those routes for you and to see what options are available. So now you'll see that we have a lovely little end mark here for 3 WebDoc, but we want to say that we're actually going to go to inside the port. So I'm going to slip it to the hybrid view, and I'm going to take it onto Empress Road and move it across, because this is where the gate is and this is where I want my permit to end, or where it suddenly becomes private property. I'm going to untoggle my view again, and I'll need the system to recalculate. And now you'll notice that the route is a lot cleaner. I am working remotely, so it will take a little bit longer, but you'll notice that the system is working a lot cleaner. It's taking some of the routes you'll see here, that it follows the route nice and smoothly through, whereas before you'll see that it would overlay onto different roads and things like that. It's even telling you can take the slipways, where we've seen previously before that it would ignore the slipway and take you around to the corner and things like that. So the system itself, specifically the engine that we're utilizing through OpenStreetMaps, is very, very good and very, very comprehensive. And because it is a data share service, we do get a lot more detail out of this. So what you see here, we've got the lovely little where it's taken this most direct route. So what I'll quickly do, just as a quick sneak peek before Andrew shows us some of the smart engine routing later, is I will give you a really quick demo. So what we have is we've started to instill some logic into the system about its routing purposes. And when we put layering on, specific layering itself, in this case, it's the B double, and recalculate, it will align more so with the routing system. You'll particularly notice up here where it is now decided to navigate instead of around the top, it's come around the bottom again. So that is it from me, ladies and gents, but just want you to know there's great things coming in to do with your routing. And while we've only got some small minor bug fixes here at the moment as part of the introduction of the new system, it is actually for a benefit for all users that are using the NHVR portal, particularly for those that are a part of information control for data and GIS spatial. Alrighty, thank you everyone. And I will now pass over to Andrew.
Thanks very much, Sean. So I have the pleasure of talking about OpenStreetMap. The first thing I'd say about OpenStreetMap is it's a fairly substantial change for us to make. And the good thing about OpenStreetMap is it's a huge enabler. We've already delivered, and we're going to show those today, some fairly new groundbreaking features, but the roadmap's are actually really bright. So Ben's going to touch on that later. So I'll talk about the now and how we've got to be where we are, and Ben's going to have the pleasure of talking about what's coming in the future as well. So OpenStreetMap, it has great high quality data. That's a given in any product, but the question is, why would you use OpenStreetMap and not one of the other well-known commercial data providers, of which there are a few, or service providers? So there's a couple of fundamental reasons why. So the first one I'll touch on is it's freely available and it's completely open, which means NHVR can go and create the data or download the data or share the data or pretty much do anything we want to it, and it's completely free of charge. So we can share this data, we can send it around. It removes a lot of proprietary and costly financial costs associated with a lot of other data providers. So that's a big step forward for us and enables us to do other things. A second big point is It's that the NHVR can and will create and update OpenStreetMap. So the emphasis there is on the can. If we go with a different data provider or a different service provider, in most cases, they definitely will respond to a request when you want something changed because there's an amendment or a fix or a problem. The difference is, though, we have to request or ask for that to be done and then wait for it to be done. We don't actually control problems, or we don't solve problems ourselves. So that leads to delays and often misinterpretation and things not getting done in a timely fashion. So going with OpenStreetMap, because it is completely open, the NHVR can go in there and it can fix problems. This is going to change the way in which we use data quite a lot, because I guess traditionally in a lot of ways, people find workarounds to bad data, whereas now they can go and fix the bad data or keep it up to date. Remember that the physical infrastructure is always changing, so the digital infrastructure or the digital representation of the infrastructure is always having to play catch up. So it's a game that never ends. You're continually playing it. You're continually playing catch up. You got to do that in the best way possible. The next thing is that the updates that you might be making in OpenStreetMap are available in near real time. So many data service providers, obviously you have to wait for them to implement it. If it's an online service, you'll often get that fairly quick once it's been implemented. If it's not a service and it's a data provider, you generally have to wait for a release of the software. So sometimes that's up to 6 months, sometimes it's 9 months, sometimes it's 12 months. So we've traditionally sat in a world where we've sort of waited 6 or 9 months and provided workarounds, whereas OpenStreetMap releases change sets or updates in minutely intervals. So as a user, if you go into OpenStreetMap and you make a change, they'll allow that to be propagated out to whoever's listening for the change, which is the NHVR, on a minutely basis. So that's, can't call it real time, but that's as near real time as we're going to get. So yeah, that's it. When the NHVR goes in, makes a change to OpenStreetMap, OpenStreetMap makes it available really, really quickly. We download a copy. A lot of magic goes on in the background, and you'll see it appear in roughly 10 minutes. Worst case scenario, depends on how busy the systems are and how big the change is. It could take up to 60 minutes. It's rare that we see one that big, but generally around the 10 to 15 minute mark in Route Planner. If the change is made in OpenStreetMap, it should appear in Route Planner. So that's like groundbreaking for us. We've gone from, roughly 6 monthly update cycles down to about 10 to 15 minutes. The third thing I'd like to touch on with OpenStreetMap is, why aren't we using a government data set? Because there are government data sets out there. Well, it's for all the reasons already stated. We don't actually have a national open source freely available government data set. That's one thing. And the other thing that's incredibly critical is that there isn't a government data set that you can route with or you can do navigation with. They're the same thing. I'll just use different terms because that's what people do. So we can't do that for Route Planner. We can't use it for trip planning. We're very limited in what we can do with different government data sets, and a lot of them aren't at a national level. So I'll just move on now. So downloadable route feature is the first thing in Route Planner that we've made available. And that's because we now have open data. It's free to share, it's free to download. I'll just go in and give a quick example of this. So I'm going to choose a route between Greensboro and Kinglake in Victoria. And now we have a button here to go and download the route. It should actually, if I do this again, it should give me a choice between GPX, which is a very popular common open format. It's for anyone out there who's technical, it's an open XML format. Or there's KML, which is Google's keyhole markup language format. So it depends what you want. They're both open. There's no proprietary formats here. It's freely available to share. The data's freely available to use. We can download that. I'll just go to this fairly random online tool, I'll get a look at the GPX file and open that. And hit that button. And you can see your route. So there's an ability there now for users within the NHVR to take, share data, move it around, take historical records, import it into your existing GIS systems. We're making that data available for the very first time. I'll keep on moving, and I would say that's pretty much a function of moving to an open, freely available data set. So the next thing to talk about is intelligent routing. So we've released a pilot which has 3 networks in Victoria. We talk about our routing engine. So the routing engine is algorithms that exist that go and look at the road network and determine the least cost, so the most efficient point from driving from point A to point B. And how that happens is typically going in and looking at all the information on the road. What's the speed limiter on the road? What's the direction of travel on the road? Can you turn left at this intersection? Can you turn right at this intersection? Performing all these fairly computationally expensive calculations that go in and work out how can you get from point A to point B. So in terms of general access routing, you would just be looking at the raw OpenStreetMap data. So if you were to go and change it to a gravel road, or you were going from a gravel road to a sealed road, that would obviously influence what you would expect it to, and it does change the preferences for driving or routing along, or the cost calculation of driving along those roads. Intelligent routing is taking that one step further. So we're taking into consideration heavy vehicle access, or the heavy vehicle network that exists on those roads. So if we go back to the little example I had here, I'm going to turn on one of the 3 layers. So I'll go for and they've got the green tab by the side of them, or tag. We'll turn on B double. Okay, and I'll do the same as before. So I'll just take note of this before I calculate it. So we were going from from Greensborough through to Kinglake in this way, so a fairly direct path. And if I type that in now, it's going to take into consideration the heavy vehicle network. So I'll just flick between the 2. This here, general access, not performing intelligent routing, pretty much goes a direct line. And if we turn on intelligent routing, it's going what is actually a long way round, but the difference and the reason why is that the roads that run directly between these 2 towns are restricted roads, and you're not going to be driving on them on a B double anyway. So we can go from a position where we pretty much dumb and blindly drive you from point to point as if you were general access or a car, and then take you up to a level where it's looking at your vehicle combination or the network, and then it will take that into consideration. It will apply a really high cost if you choose to drive along these roads, and they will be avoided, and it will route you around those roads. And that's pretty much it for me. So I hope that explains some things. The future is very bright. We're just scraping the surface now. We hope to deliver a lot more in the future. And I shall pass this over to you now, Ben.
Thank you, Andrew. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. My name is Benjamin Ruhr. I'm the product owner for the National Spatial Program. Just want to take you quickly over the roadmap for the route planner. As you can see, we're definitely making a leap forward from the legacy planner. Before we only had light vehicles, but this new route planner is going to be designed for heavy vehicles. And what we're doing is we're building a strong foundation to innovate off. And you can see that some of the features that we'll be bringing later on in the year and as time goes on are things like dynamic routing, where we take into account the ability to snap to a network. And that's not only limited to legally enforceable networks, but it's also going to be available for pre-approvals, right? And then we'll take into account your vehicle configuration, but also how that interacts with objects within the route that you're intending to take. So your vehicle may not be capable of accessing a bridge because it doesn't meet the requirements and it exceeds it. So we'll find you a more optimum route. Other features that we'll look to bring in are some of those restricted and dynamic routing parameters. So in conjunction with the NHVR Maps project that is currently running underway, we're giving the capability to road managers to apply conditions and restrictions to roads within their LGAs or their areas of responsibility. And in turn, this will feed into the route planner and dynamically and with near real-time update routes that are being planned to avoid those restricted or conditional areas based on what your vehicle configuration is. At the moment, we're working closely with our state partners to bring across all the networks within Australia. We're currently working very closely with TMR and the Department of Transport Victoria to get that off the ground. It's currently in a pilot stage at the moment. As you can imagine, it's quite complex, but that will feed into all the other features that I've just mentioned. And I don't think I've got anything else. Tanya, I'm going to hand back to you.
Thank you, Ben. I think this is actually quite a lot, and it was really quite amazing to see the intelligent routing in action. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in and watching this. I guess there is nothing else for us to say, but to provide you with some contact details in case you do have any further questions or need further assistance. And in addition to our usual help center and customer care and road manager contact details that are there on the screen right now, I also wanted to point you to the OpenStreetMaps Training Center. Should any of you interested in becoming contributor to the OpenStreetMaps, it's absolutely an option, and there is step-by-step instructions on how to do that, how to register, and how to start making changes to the base maps. And I also wanted to encourage everyone to use the chat option that is currently available in the portal. I just want to show where exactly in the portal that is. So when you log in, it's that little smiley chat face in the bottom right corner that you click through. And then you have an option to send us a message where this will go straight to the relevant team member and would be triaged through to the relevant area for you to respond. So any feedback, including the experience that you're having with the new route planner and the next generation route planner, is absolutely welcome, and we encourage you to send it through this channel. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we really look forward to you using the next generation route planner and providing your feedback on your experience. Thank you.